All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We are on the purple couch in Cards and Culture with a different look. This is our second episode on the purple couch this way. It's been a little bit of a different adjustment for me. So you've been on the purple couch before, over there in the shop and on our show. So we have a repeat guest here, Jacob Hester, former NFL, LSU superstar, and now. Are you a media member? What do you?
That's always weird. Like, I don't know what to call myself
I know,
because like you identify as a player for so long.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a former player, but it's like, well, no, you're actually like sports media now.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what to call myself. I know I do a lot of radio every day, but that's about it. I don't really know how to tagline it.
I know. And you get like media passes. You're like, I'm at all the credit, and you're going to be a media member way longer than you were a football player. Probably.
I wish I could have played baseball. Y'all get guaranteed contracts.
That's right.
We don't get those
at
all. It is wild to kind of think about that. I guess I've already probably been in this game a little bit longer. Like, crazy enough, I retired from the NFL in 2014. So I'm 9 years kind of in, like fully in probably since like 2017, but still about as long as I played in the NFL, 6 years.
That's
and
crazy.
So yeah, it's gone by incredibly fast, just like playing does. And you know this.
Yep.
And everything goes by fast. Everything's like fast forward when you get a chance to do what you want to do, right? And so just like, my time with the Chargers, like it felt like it was like that. But I'm like, well, I played with the Chargers longer than I played with any other team in my life. But like, it's just like when it gets to that point, like you don't think of it that way, I guess.
So were you at the Chargers, the only team that you were with?
So I played with the Broncos too.
So
I went 4.5 years with the Chargers, and then I went 1.5 years with the Broncos.
Okay.
And then in 2014, I was in camp with the Saints. I went to mini camp with the Saints, and really honestly, I told myself at that time that I was done.
Okay.
I was like, I'm done. I'm ready to get into broadcasting. I already had a job lined up in broadcasting. And I was like, I'm ready to kind of dive into that world because I was at that point, and like your 1 year contract, like you can still do it, but it's not going to be like I'm in this spot for a long time. I already had 3 children at the time, right? And so like I'm like, okay, do I want to do this? But then it was the Saints, and like growing up in Louisiana, it's like I'll give it a try. Let me go see. And I actually did way better than I thought. I had more juice in the tank than I thought. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe. And then so from that camp, we roll around, we get to August, and when August comes, and it's like, okay, here's the contract. Do you want to go to West Virginia where they used to hold training camp? Do you want to go up there? Like, here's the deal.
Right.
And I had this pit in my stomach that like I had no desire to go to training camp. And like, so for me, it was good for a couple of reasons. If you're not fully bought into professional sports, you don't need to be in it. No. Like you got to be all in.
And especially football.
Especially football. You got to be ready to go. But it also gave me, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
So it was good, like, to really just have that feeling of you don't need to chase this anymore. Right. And then also I got to go out on my own terms, which was important to me. Like, I had a contract in hand right in front of me, and I decided to turn it down. And I was like, okay, all those things point to you need to go to something new, something that's not this. And media gives you a chance to be around all the cool stuff about sports without the grind of being there every single day and having to block, Ray Lewis and Patrick Willis on ISO blocks. So
I say that all the time. I'm like, this is the perfect thing for me. I get to interview and sit with people, shoot the shit, talk about sports. It feels like you're still in the game. I get to go to games because I have media passes and things like that. I get to hang out with people, and I sell sports cards, so it keeps me in the game, and the memorabilia. But it's like I'm not on the field. I'm not gone 9 months a year. So
you get a little bit of that locker room.
Exactly.
Because that I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, that's what we all like yearn for once we're done. Exactly. Like, we want the locker room. We want, like you mentioned, like, we get to shoot the shit with our teammates and our boys, and like going out to practice. Now, nobody like loves practice.
Right.
Well, maybe Peyton Manning. He really loved practice, but like outside of that, like nobody really loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what your job is, and the games are why you do it. But like, just like the moments leading into a practice, hanging out in the hot tubs and like having conversations about whatever. It can be life. It can be football, baseball, whatever. It can be about the practice coming up that day, something you watched on tape. But still, those are the things that you miss. And so, like, I love being on this side of it because, like, I get a chance to do that every day. Like, I get to hang out with T-Bob every day. And, like, it's like a locker room kind of feel on our morning show. And then on my Sirius XM show, I have a different co-host every day. So I get 5 different personalities every single day. And we're not there in person, but it is Zoom. And, like, I feel like those are my really good friends. And I see them, like, 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But we have those conversations. And so, like, this to me is the best thing that you can do if you're if that's your desire and you can get it done. I mean, it's still a lot of hard work. You got to prep, you got to do some of those things, but I like the prep.
Yeah.
The prep, like, this is going to shock our audience here. I wasn't the most athletic guy. That's not the reason I was able to play running back in the SEC. I had some of it, but it was like I was going to be prepared more than my opponent. That was going to be kind of the advantage that I could create, and I enjoyed that. I really did. And so I get to do that now. Like, I get to take notes. I get to watch film. I get to break down and anticipate things. And so, like, all the things that we get to do in sports media, I think are as close as you can get to actually being a player.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And it's like, it allows you to stay in the game still. And to me, it's the fun part of, like, you can still interview past players. You and I are talking, and we played a long time ago, but we're sitting here and there's new kids coming on the couch and there's new generations every year and all that kind of stuff. So you get to see the game change. You get to feel and ask questions that you might not have, because we're not in the locker rooms anymore. There is a little bit of change and things like that. So it's cool to be able to still be involved in it, learning it, growing it, but also, like you said, have your distance, be able to stay away from it and off the field.
Yeah, and it's really like what you want to make it. Like,
100%.
I mean, normally, like, for you, like, you're traveling, going to different baseball games, staying at hotels. Baseball's a different world. I don't know how in the world y'all do it with all the travel, but, like, you knew how much of your day had to be committed to your craft. Same thing with football, but, like, with sports media and, like, learning different things, like, you can take a step back sometimes if you're like, okay, like, I've been in this a little bit too much. Let me go take the kids to the movies or do something. Like, the other day I was in here in the card shop. Like, I was like, I grabbed the boys, like, hey, we're going to go see a movie. We're going to go buy some cards and we're going to go eat some food.
I love it.
Like, let's just get away for a little bit. And you can do that when you're playing.
No.
Like, I don't know how in the world my wife did it. I mean, we had 3 while I was playing, and, like, I was gone from 5 a.m. until 5 p.m. at minimum. I mean, that's a minimum. It would get, if we were in a losing streak, it got so crazy because I was always tight with the quarterbacks. And when I was in San Diego, the quarterbacks thought we're losing because we're not getting in early enough. Right. And we used to carpool. Like, we used to all carpool in San Diego because we're like 45 minutes away. Exactly. So it's like, hey, we all lived close to each other. And I was like, we're picking each other up at dark. Like, we're like, it got to a point, it's like 3:30. Like, we're going by, me, Billy Volek, Charlie Whitehurst, Phillip Rivers, and we're all grabbing each other. I'm like, this isn't why we're losing, guys. We don't need to pick each other up at 3:30 ain't the answer. No, because you knew we were going to be there, like, till the very end as well.
The sun's going down.
And so it's like, okay, but that's how you get into your mindset of just different things. And well, who puts up with that? Well, your wife, like, or your spouse, whoever that is. Like, they're at home making sure everything's going the way it's supposed to. And look, obviously, like, you have to do the things that you have to do to be successful. But, like, at a point where it's like, oof, man, I would not want to be someone that has to do the job that my wife did, for sure.
And that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for her. Like, you wouldn't be able to have the success and the peace of mind to get up.
Even now. Like, okay, I'll give you, like, an example of, since the 1st of December, what my schedules look like. I went to the SEC championship game for 4 days or whatever that is, covered that. The next weekend, I go to Boston for Army-Navy to cover that game. While I'm in Boston, I hop on a train in Providence, Rhode Island, go down to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, cover that, right? And then I come back, and then I go back on the road for the Sugar Bowl, which is down the road, but you got to stay down there because you got 4 or 5 days of events and shows and different things. Get back from that, I was in Houston for the last 4 or 5 days covering the national championship game. I've got the Senior Bowl coming up in Mobile at the end of this month. I go straight from the Senior Bowl to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl, for Super Bowl radio on Sirius. And all of that, it is a privilege for me to be able to do all of those things. It's incredible. I have 5 kids at home. I could not do that if I didn't have a rock star at home that takes care of everything else. Homework, groceries, feeding. I got 4 boys, and you've seen the size of my oldest. I mean, he eats everything inside. I mean, we have like
laundry.
Oh my gosh, I don't even want to. I just got chills and not good chills.
Like, that was my first thought. I'm like, I know how many clothes I go through working out, and I'm just by myself. I'm like, the kids working out, changing clothes,
going to basketball to soccer or whatever.
Like, that's crazy.
So, like, all of that, I get to do all those fantastic fun things, and it's a lot of work. It's good work though. But if you don't have a support system, and not everybody has 5 kids, I do realize that as well. But still, like, that's what I wanted. I was one of 5. My wife was one of 5. We wanted 5 kids, and so I get a chance to go do all of that, but I couldn't do it if it wasn't for her. And I feel completely at peace with her doing all those things. Again, I don't know how in the hell she does it.
Yeah.
Like, it blows my mind. It blows a lot of people's mind, but she does. And it gives me the opportunity to go make a living for our family, but also like have a lot of fun along the way. I mean, those trips were amazing.
Like, I would imagine those cities that you named too. Like, those aren't bad places to be in too. Most of those places.
No. And so like the Boston part of it, like we got a chance to go, like USSA was hosting a concert for Army Navy, and me and my radio host partner, like, we're up there introducing like a country music concert, and I'm like just sitting there like, man, these are great opportunities and things that I've been able to do, and just all of it's kind of come together, and it's been like just a whirlwind really since like 2018.
That's cool. I do remember I was asking you, Joe, about, I know we had the 10-15 minute thing at the card show with Jacob. I do remember you talking about your wife, and like even in that conversation talking about how like, dude, I'm only, because I remember asking him like, dude, you're doing this, you were signing autographs, you were always doing stuff, and you were like, my wife. That's it. That's the answer. Like, I'm like, that's crazy. Yeah.
Because
when did you guys meet?
High school.
Oh my God. That's awesome. So let's try, you grew up in Shreveport, right?
Yeah. Grew up in Shreveport.
So she's from Shreveport too?
She's from Shreveport as well.
Did she go to LSU?
She did.
Oh my God. So you guys went through college together?
Yeah. We got married in college.
What? I do remember you saying that too.
Yeah, we got married in college. Her dad was actually my football coach.
Oh my God.
In high school. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And great football family. Her dad played a year for the Bears. He was a stud at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
Her uncle played 11 years for the Cardinals, and he was a stud, like All-American at Louisiana Tech. And so like she understood the assignment. She understood like the life of football. So that helped
makes,
as well.
Yes, that makes a lot more sense too. Just the way how you praise her, like she had to have that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
she understood probably the world that she was about to get into.
Yes.
And so like that helped. But yeah, we met in high school, started dating there. I was actually a year ahead of her.
Okay.
So I was here at LSU. She was back in Shreveport. You know, that was a long year.
Yeah.
But then she came to LSU. And to be honest, to tell you how different it is now compared to then, we decided to get married going into my senior year. So like that junior summer going into my senior year. But my scholarship check was like $500 a month.
Yeah.
Like live off campus, $500 a month. And that was after Hurricane Katrina. So like everything was like expensive as hell because everybody obviously moves to Baton Rouge. And so our rent was like $900 and something.
Oh my God.
I make $500. That ain't going to cover it.
Yeah.
Right. And so she actually dropped out of school, got a job, and was supporting me and like our little family. Because like there was no way for me to be able to pay rent.
Oh my God.
Like we didn't have unlimited meals back then. We could eat twice a day, I think was the rules back then. And so she taught private lessons at like a local gym. She was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
She taught private lessons like all throughout the day, and she was the breadwinner, man. She put us through that first year of being married, and actually had again to drop out of school to be able to do so. So
I got chills. That's freaking awesome. Like, and especially when you look at your life right now and what you guys have built, like that's such a key part of the story. Like, and especially how hard you're working right now and the things you're doing and everything. Like, you wouldn't, but like it was built back then. You know what I'm saying? Like Jacob Hester was being built at that time, and she was helping like support that so you could be that dude. You know, like, that's really cool.
Yeah, because we didn't have the ability to. Obviously, NIL's like pretty much brand new. But like, you didn't have that. I didn't have that. Like. That would have been great if we did.
No, 100%.
But even the scholarship money's changed as far as how much they get per month.
Well, that's why when you said 500, I'm like, don't they get way more than that?
Yeah, cost of attendance and all that. Obviously, like you can get your family to these games now. Like, you know, my mom and wife were trying to like carpool, find a way to get to all these games and
my family
scrounge together some change and see if they could do it. And for you, I mean, baseball, like. You didn't even have that luxury. I had a
77%. Oh, we were paying.
Which 77% was huge in baseball, but still.
But I was also out of state, so it was 77 of 32,000 or 33,000. Right. My family's like, it was just funny. My family's very accountable, you know. So they were like, look, if you get a 70% scholarship or above, we'll split what you owe, and like you only take out loans for half. And I'm like, wow, thanks guys. You know, 70% is a pretty good scholarship. But they were like, because I was thinking about taking a 50% scholarship to Virginia, and they were like, we're not paying for it. You're going to have loans. You're going to have like 20 grand in loans or 60 grand in loans, you know, like now granted, if you go play baseball, you can pay them off, but it was like, they held me accountable. That's it's different for baseball.
Like, so like doing the national show on Sirius, I'll start to talk college baseball. And a lot of people from different fan bases like, man, like one, like, how do you know so much about college baseball? Like, because me and Chris Budden do the show together, and she covers Omaha, and so she knows college baseball better than I do. And it's like, and why are y'all talking about they should get more A, B, and C? I'm like, because you don't understand. like where I live, college baseball is like on the same level as every other sport.
Oh, yeah.
You could give scholarships in the SEC without question. It would make sense. And so like college baseball to me is a different world than maybe some other portions of the country.
Yeah.
And I realize that you want to have everything as the same, but I'm like, look, if the SEC started giving full baseball scholarships and if the SEC wants to do it, they'll just go and do whatever they want. Like that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about LSU's baseball team last year. Think about the teams that you played on at LSU. I mean, y'all are some of the biggest faces on campus. And you're paying to go there.
School, yeah.
Like Dylan Cruz is paying to go to school.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's wild.
Paul Skeens is paying.
Out-of-state guys are paying to
Paul Skeens is giving money to LSU?
Wild.
Are you kidding me? And I know they had NIL and that helps, but still.
They were not. And especially it was so new. They weren't getting it. And like, I don't know. They're still paying. I guarantee you. Yeah.
Still paying some kind of a tuition. So, I mean, I'm glad it's changed for them, but still. The college baseball portion of the SEC, like
it's crazy.
Just be different because you are different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
obviously in the news, you know, Nick Saban just retired. He recruited you out of high school. Was that?
Yeah,
he was
I played for Coach Saban. Yeah,
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So what year would that be?
So my senior year was 2003.
Okay.
So the way that
So you weren't on the 03 national team?
No, because I didn't redshirt. So I came in 04.
Gotcha.
So the way that I got offered by LSU was really by chance.
Really?
And it was solely because of Nick Saban, not any other coach at LSU. So I was a 2-star recruit. I was 795th in the country. I was 27th ranked in the state of Louisiana. I was a 17th ranked fullback. Not that I keep tabs on that. There's not 17 fullbacks in the country anymore, by the way, but that's where I was. Yeah, it was weird because I did have some big offers.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna act like I didn't have any. I had Oklahoma, I had Miami. I was actually committed to Texas for a long time. Now I didn't have LSU.
Okay.
And I wanted that one. That's the one I wanted, but I didn't think it would come. I really didn't. So I committed to Texas, and recruiting was so different back then. Like now, like if you commit to Texas, LSU's offering you probably
immediately, like
just
the next day.
because.
Yeah.
Same thing if LSU offers you Texas. It wasn't like that really.
Okay.
And it was like the first couple of years of star rankings, and they were trying to figure that out a little bit. Film wasn't easy to grab. You couldn't get your Huddle account. I mean, it was VHSs. Yeah. And so you miss guys, right? And whatever, that happens. So my high school quarterback, John David Booty, ended up going to USC. Yeah. Well, he was like the #1 recruit in the country, or one of them. And we had like some other guys. We had 9 guys my senior year signed D1. We had a couple for Ole Miss, a TCU back. And so we had some good players. Yeah. And so Coach Saban was there during a practice to watch those players. Mm-hmm. He had no idea who I was. Yeah. And I had no idea he was at practice. And we did an old school Oklahoma drill. You can't even do that anymore, I don't think. But it was like an old school Oklahoma drill. And the guy was like 245 pounds in high school playing running back.
Oh my God.
And so like that was my drill. Like I was going to do good in that one. And from that drill, I guess I showed him something. He states like, all right, 13. I'm going to watch 13. And then we did team and all that and whatever. And by the end of the practice, he didn't offer the other guys, the Ole Miss guys, the TCU guys. He came to me, and I got an offer from Nick Saban because he happened to be at practice that day and watched an Oklahoma drill and started to watch 13 the rest of the practice. And that's how I got my offer from LSU, was that. And then obviously like I tried to play it cool for a little bit, but committed to LSU pretty quick. After that, I had to call Mac Brown, like, Mac.
That's
crazy.
And
Mac Brown was so cool.
Really?
Oh, he was so cool.
I love hearing that. So you called him and he was.
I called him, and Mac Brown is one of the greatest human beings that we have. He's still like, he gives me a hard time still about it, but it's like in a joke. I called him. I was like, hey, coach, I know I've been committed for a while, but and I start to tell a story. He goes, Nick got you, didn't he?
No, that's incredible.
Yeah, like, Nick guy's like, yeah. Coach.
That probably felt good though for you as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, okay, at least he understands.
So my dad, a Marine, 30+ years, city policeman. Like, he wasn't calling for me.
No, 100%. You were taking accountability.
I was calling there. Like, there was no other way that was going down. But I just told him, he goes, and a lot of players from my high school had gone to Texas. Yeah. And so like there was like a little pipeline. Wow. So there was a good relationship between the schools. But he said, look, I get it. He's like, you're from Louisiana. I remember you telling me you went and watched them play Michigan State in the Independence Bowl. Like I remember he goes, I hate it. I want you here, but I understand it. I mean, he was incredibly made that call much easier for me.
100%.
Being an 18-year-old trying to call Mac Brown, you know. And so he was great, and that helped the situation. And so I got to LSU because Nick happened to go to practice that one day. And what's wild is, because I played baseball and soccer at the same time at Evangel, there was some spring practices that I would miss because we have a baseball tournament or we'd have a soccer or whatever it might be. So like, our coaches were great. They were like, if you play one sport, you're going to play two here, which I love. Yeah. But like if it was a game, we'd go play the game, the spring practice, whatever. And so, but luckily that spring practice I was there. So
that's talk about fate and everything too. Like that's wild.
I know he coached at Alabama. I know he won 6 titles there, but that man literally changed my life.
100%.
He gave me an opportunity when many wouldn't, and that was kind of my message last night whenever he decided to retire. I mean, he just gave me an opportunity that a lot of people just see, okay, this guy, he doesn't look like an SEC running back. We're not going to give him an opportunity, but he saw something. He trusted his eyes, and like my life changed because of it. So,
100%. Yeah, I saw your Instagram post, and I didn't even realize I like putting the timetable together because, again, you and I were in school together. I just less and all that stuff. So, and when you put that out there, I was like, oh, that's right. He probably recruited him here and everything. Yeah. Like, that's really cool. And so I knew you probably had some sort of personal relationship with him and everything. So,
and what's wild about Coach Saban, so I did play for him 2004 season. Okay. His last year here was my freshman year. Okay. But what's wild is like now being a part of the media, we'll go to SEC spring meetings down in Destin and just chop it up with Coach Saban and have a chance to talk with him. And the thing that always blows me away, he can remember every detail of my recruiting story, of like anybody's recruiting story. Like, I'm just sitting there thinking, all the players that you've had, much better than me, and you had me for 1 year, and he remembers every detail of the story I just told you. It's incredible to me. And like Antonio Gates was a teammate of mine with the Chargers. He actually committed to Michigan State to play football, and things didn't work out. Ends up playing basketball and went to a Final Four, but he committed to Nick Saban and Michigan State. Never played for him. Last time I saw him, he broke down the entire recruiting story of Antonio Gates and how it played out and where he was and the high school coach's name. I'm like,
that is so nutty to me. But it's so funny you say that because I say that about Skip.
There's a lot of similarities. That's why Skip probably and him got along when Skip was the AD. I mean, you have to be like they are to be in the GOAT conversation.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's got to be something with greatness, like of like that kind of stuff, minute details. Yeah. Every time I saw Skip, I mean, to this day, and he's getting old, he's getting up there and everything. He's like, hey, how was Angelo? I'm like, what? We spent 15 minutes in your office on a recruiting pitch where Maneri was probably like, hey, we need to get this guy, like that's it. That's probably all he told him, and that kind of stuff. And he remembered me, and obviously I came here and stuff like that. But to remember Angelo, that was, I know that's not a common name, but I love that stuff. Like those little things that
the smallest thing was the biggest thing with Coach Saban. Okay. And not in a micromanaging way. But an attention to detail way. Yes. I know this is like story time, and
that's what we want. Like, bro, I was gonna be like, I kind of was like, I'm nervous to talk about Saban because I told you this before we flipped on the cameras. I've appreciated that man from a distance for so long, and just what he's done, built, all that kind of stuff. The way he goes, I've heard so many stories about how he eats the same thing for breakfast because he doesn't want to give brain power away to thinking about So that's why I'm like, bro, tell all the stories. I'm like, I want to know.
Okay, so we're playing a Jefferson Pilot sports game. All right,
what's
so. I forget you're not from the South.
You know what it is?
So Jefferson Pilot. Well,
he's a football guy. So
I know, but he's younger than me. Yeah. So Jefferson Pilot was a channel that used to carry SEC games. Okay. And if you were on Jefferson Pilot, it was an 11 a.m. kick, Central Time. Yeah. So like a noon Eastern kick, and you didn't have a lot of those at LSU because we fight for night games, but it was a channel, and the old JPP games, right? And we knew they were going to be early. We knew they were going to be probably against Mississippi State, right? That's what it was. And so we had one of those in 2004, and the pregame meal was different. Okay. Now, Coach Saban all week long had preached, treat this like every other game. Yeah. Do not tell me about early kickoff. Do not change your mindset. We are going in with the LSU mindset. All those things coaches try to do to make everything the same because he doesn't want you thinking early kick. We got to get up. Pregame meal is going to be at 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. It's a Mississippi State, like whatever. He wanted none of that to bleed into his program. And so we get the pregame meal. It's still dark outside. And the person that prepared pregame meal made breakfast and not the normal pregame meal, steak and pasta and the things that you always have for pregame meal. And he blows up. He blows up on everybody. And I'm sitting there as a freshman, I'm like, why is he so mad? Yeah. He preached all week. He wanted it the same. He wanted our minds to be the same. Right. He did not want our minds to think that it was an early game. And so the breakfast would change our mindset because we'd see eggs and bacon, think early, and we wouldn't be ready to play.
Oh my God.
And at the time, I'm like, come on, coach. But like the more I get away from him, I'm like, that might seem like a lot, but his attention to detail, the things he worked on all week to try to create this mindset, he felt like in his mind were all lost right there in that moment because something was different.
Oh my God.
And that's just, I mean,
that's him, right? That's him. That's what I always heard.
And he stayed like that until probably yesterday.
Yes.
Like he was calling assistant coaches, trying to get them to Alabama 35 minutes before he told his team yesterday. He worked until the very end.
What?
And that's him. That's him.
And that's what I always heard. And again, right, there was a lot of chatter. You know, Les did his thing here and got us a 2 championship, one, you know, held the trophy. But it was always like, yeah, but with this caliber, these players and these recruits, with Saban's system, the discipline, the attention to detail. I'm trying to remember when did Saban leave here?
04 was his last year. So Les comes in 05. We win in 07. And then Les gets back in 11. And yeah, look, like Coach Miles had some great runs, some great runs.
But I just always heard like the older guys, there was a couple. So Chris Jackson was a kicker, right, and played football and baseball. And so my freshman year, he was there, and he would talk about it and talk to Jared and be like, dude, it was so different. When, like just little things, you know, of like, and I was like, what's
and that's not even a slight to anybody else.
No,
it's just that's him. Like that's the only person that you could put in that category.
Yeah,
that's why like the next coach of Alabama. Poor bastard.
I know. Like, what are you walking? I was actually thinking that. What's your perspective on that? So the guy that comes in, is that a dream job, or like you said, is it like?
I think it's a dream job for anybody. Yeah. I mean, because of what Nick Saban's built, but also like what Bear Bryant built back in the day. Sure. Look, it's a blue blood, just like LSU is. And LSU job, when that's open, like you want that job.
Yeah.
It's going to take a personality that can handle that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it's not, then it's a 3-year placeholder until the next guy comes in.
Exactly.
You got to be a dude that like you're not sensitive. You can't be sensitive and be that.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be things that surround you in that job that it will swallow you whole if you're sensitive. Like you got to have a unique personality. And we'll start talking about some of those names, and all those names are coming up. But like Dabo Sweeney's name came up because he played at Alabama, right? And he was molded there, and that one makes a lot of sense. Dabo hears a lot of outside chatter, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. He hears a lot of that. He hears it, I don't know that that's the best place for him to go back to, right? So like just thinking personality. Dabo's a hell of a football coach. He's won national championships. Every fit's going to be different.
Yeah. Go.
And also, you made the point about you know, the next guy that come in is going to have a you know, tall shoes to fill and all that kind of stuff. Well, I think that's the everlasting Nick Saban effect. Is he's got the biggest and best coaching tree of anybody ever. Like he's got guys that came up in his system and now have played for national championships or taken teams to Pac-12 championships, and they can just fill right in and continue. And there will never be another Nick Saban,
right?
But they can just
system-wise. Is that what you're saying? So
absolutely,
and just like. Not even on the field, like to the point, like people that understand the process.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Coach Saban always talks about.
Exactly.
Now you can try to duplicate that. A lot have. Some have failed. Some have not. Right. Like Kirby Smart. Look at what he's doing.
But that's what I think we get lost. We always talk about the coaching tree and the players tree, right? Like of the people that have played and coached. And that's what it is that you adopt the systems and the processes and you put little twists and things on them that fit for you and that school and that culture, right? And that
like Kirby's done at Georgia.
Exactly. And
dude, the staff when I got here in 2004, so Nick was obviously the head coach. Coach Saban. I'm not going to call him Nick, even though he's retired. Just in case. Oh, yeah, I ain't calling it. Yeah.
He'll be like,
no, he wouldn't. Coach. I'm just.
Respect.
Yeah. Call him
no,
Nick.
People are like, I can't call. I told you that. I'm like, I'm 34-year-old man, and I'm calling him Coach Maneri, and I'm like, I can't call him Paul. I'm sorry. Like, it feels so weird.
Yeah, like I'll call Kirby, but I ain't call. So, Coach Saban's head coach. Jimbo Fisher's our OC. Will Muschamp's our defensive coordinator. Kirby Smart's our defensive backs coach. Derek Dooley is our running back coach. I mean, James Coley was our GA. He went on to be an offensive coordinator at Georgia and Texas A&M. And Damian Craig was our other GA. He goes and he's an offensive coordinator in all these places. Stacy Searles was our offensive line coach. He's been the offensive line coach at Georgia during this magical run.
Jesus.
Dude, our staff in 2004 at LSU was incredible. That is and they were all learning under Coach Saban. I mean, Dooley's head coach at Tennessee, Muschamp, Florida, and South Carolina. We know what Kirby is. We know what Jimbo is. I mean, it's just
that is wild. Those names that you just rattled off right there,
and that's just one staff from 1 year.
Yes, 1 year. That's the thing. Because there's a turnover. And how many other people he's had on. Oh my god.
And other places. This time at Michigan State, the coaching tree there, and somebody put it out in a graphic. yesterday. It's hard to like even fathom that one man had all these coaches underneath him at one point that kind of laid the foundation for him.
Yeah.
So
do you think too, like my brain just always go to, and I guess it makes sense, right? If you're an AD and you're looking to make a new hire, like you're probably looking for that person too. Like that's a good resume box to check, right? Be like coaching under Saban for 4 years, 5 years, and things like that.
Yeah, you're like, there's got to be things he picked up
exactly.
Saban that he's going to be able to bring
to
our program. And I know for a long time that the assistants didn't have, the best track record because they were trying to do it maybe too much like him. And I think you had to take a portion of it. Then, like you said, kind of put your own twist on it. But now we're starting to see those guys that have figured it out really start to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to be, man, who they bring in.
Who do you think? Who's give me top 3 that you think, because it's hard to say who number 1.
I would say Dan Lanning, Lane Kiffin, and Mike Norvell.
Okay.
Those would be my 3.
And what schools would they be?
Dan Lanning, Oregon.
Yep.
And gosh, I don't know what's going Oregon seems like a dream job to me with Phil Knight and Nike money and where it's at. But like Willie Taggart left, he went to Florida State. Mario Cristobal left, he went to Miami. I'm not sure like what's missing there.
Right.
Now going to the Big Ten, maybe that changes some of the.
I was just gonna say maybe like conferences or something. I don't know.
But Dan Lanning would be in the Saban coaching tree, and so that makes sense. Lane Kiffin obviously would be.
That's what I was thinking too.
In the Saban coaching, he'd have the personality that we're talking about.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Nothing gets him off his marker. He's just Lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Like so he doesn't really care what you say. So that makes a lot of sense. But he's built something pretty cool at Ole Miss that I think. You might not be in the biggest spot, but you've created it to a point that it's never been before. Right. There's something cool about that 100%. Because you did it. You're the one that built it.
Yep.
And then Mike Norvell, because he takes over Florida State, they have some bumps. They lose to Jacksonville State a couple years ago, but they stayed with him. He grinded and he figured it out. And now he's done a really nice job in high school recruiting. But he also knows how to navigate the portal really, really well. So like look at Johnny Wilson at receiver, Keon Coleman at receiver. Sure. Jordan Travis didn't start at Florida State. He started at Louisville. And then he comes over. Everybody kind of misses that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Jared Verse is at Albany. And now he comes down to Florida State. He's going to be maybe the first edge rusher off the board in this NFL draft. So developing those players once they get there.
That's the thing too is making sure that they
and also being able to talk them into coming to Tallahassee. So Mike Norvell might be like kind of a sleeper if it's not Dan Lanning.
Okay.
So
that's really cool. We were talking about it yesterday because we were just like, it's such a weird thing with the playoff and too. Like if Harbaugh leaves and you have 2 teams that were in the playoff that have vacancies, and it's like what's a lateral move? I don't even know. Because I was like, my first brain, I was like, why wouldn't Sarkisian want to go to Alabama? Like he just built, but it's like then somebody's like, why would he leave Texas? Like he has the, it's like you're right. Like why would
Texas going to the SEC? They got some
exactly.
Juice.
There's so much momentum. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That would be dumb for him.
Texas NIL maybe the most.
I was just gonna say they gotta have that old oil money and
I mean, I know Texas A&M has a lot too, but Texas might actually have the most. Right. And so it's hard to find a path for Sark to leave. And like again, he kind of took some pressure off of himself after what they did this year. He would just put it back on if he went to Alabama.
That's what I was thinking too. Why would you do that?
It's going to be fascinating,
it is.
man. Because let's say Michigan doesn't hire their OC more from within, and they go on the outside. Okay, well, Michigan's open.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, what's Michigan going to do? Michigan's going to go steal your coach.
Right.
Like whoever that is. Like there's only 5 places that are on the same level. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Now I do think LSU is one of those places, but okay, well, that's a domino. And then Alabama takes somebody, that's a domino. And then those places they stole those coaches from, they're going to steal somebody else's coach.
Exactly.
Domino. Man,
that's what I was thinking about yesterday. I was like, that is one of the wildest things to have. Like, if Harbaugh leaves and Saban leaves, I think that just creates such a crazy domino effect.
You know
for
what it's
college
also
football.
going to do? Get a lot of people paid.
Yeah, true.
Jimmy Sexton is watching all of this saying, my client, even if he's not leaving he's about to get paid.
Yeah.
He's about to get a raise because it's the threat.
Yeah, exactly. You just leverage it. Everybody's getting
no doubt. If you have somebody that you believe in,
100%.
Man, look, it's hard. It's hard to get the right guy.
Yeah.
And so if you have that guy, you're going to overpay for him.
Yep.
And so now it's going to be fun to see who gets overpaid.
Yeah, exactly. Holy shit. I love that though. That's the business of sport that I love. Yeah. What's your take? I know. So Joe has a college football show too. He's big into college football and breaking it down. Give me your thoughts. Cause we talked about it a little bit, but
I love the overpaid take. Somebody's getting overpaid. LSU still needs an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So, like, whether that's an inside hire, I mean, those are jobs that have to get replaced, whether it's inside or from somewhere else. But those are all vacancies. So, I think, you're exactly right about somebody getting overpaid and people getting jobs that they're not going to be at in the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, with LSU offensive coordinator, that's fascinating because I do think you can hire from within. I think a lot of both the guys that would be up for that, Cortez Hankton and Joe Sloan. I think Joe Sloan, because I know him a little bit better than I know the rest of the coaches, just from his time at Louisiana Tech. As I told you, my wife's family has a ton of ties with Louisiana Tech. I mean, he was close to being a head coach not that long ago.
Really?
Now, like, what are his aspirations? What's the end goal? Like, I don't know that, but I know he's ready to be the offensive coordinator at LSU.
Yeah.
He was the offensive coordinator at Louisiana Tech. He's already been a coordinator. So, like, play calling and having that experience, that goes a long way for me. And so I think you feel good about that. And I think Scott Woodward on the other side of it is showing you that he will spend whatever money he has to never see what we had to go through
100%.
on the defensive side ever again.
Yes.
Blake Baker, stud, $2.5 million.
Yeah,
Bo Davis,
so
that news
wild.
comes out.
That's
like,
wild.
I know Bo was making over 1.1 at Texas.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that number is, but it's going to be over 1.1 for your defensive line coach. And so if you want to bring in the best, if you want to never see what you had to see again, then that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Because Blake was going to sign a
Woodward's
new
the
deal
man,
at Missouri.
yeah.
Bo Davis was already making generational type money at Texas. Well, if you want the best, you got to go pay the best.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I think Woodward is really just putting our sports team
Oh,
it's like he just understands the moment in time, and he's like, we're not going to pass this up. And I, all the different things, getting kids here, the right people, and all that stuff. It's
dude, every sport, man.
he's made all the
amazing.
right. Yeah, he really has made.
It's amazing,
and even men's basketball's coming around now, and I'm like, God forbid that happens. Like,
and I mean, God, obviously, like they had their hands tied behind their back because they didn't know what was going to come down the pipeline from the NCAA because the NCAA is the governing body that doesn't govern. So who knows what they're going to do? And so, like, you're kind of handcuffed there. And credit to Coach McMahon, now they look like they're coming out of the darkness. But women's basketball, baseball, softball,
it's ridiculous.
Like, think about baseball feels like at an all-time high here. And
100%.
Like to say that at LSU,
it's crazy, right?
It's like.
It is. If that's what it feels, but it feels like that in most sports too. Is like I had a golfer on.
I agree.
I had a golfer on here, and I'm like, I was embarrassed because I was like, I didn't realize how I knew he was good, and I knew he was up for an award, but I'm like, oh, we have maybe it's just crazy.
Ingrid Lindblad on the women's golf.
That's what I mean. Yeah, she's coming. She's gonna come on my
Russian thing.
Yeah, she's gonna come on the podcast too.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's crazy how many just national names we have in our sports, and that's why I hired Abby.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we need to just document this no matter what. Like, this is just an incredible time to be in LSU. LSU is the best in sports right now.
You have the best baseball player in the country, the two best baseball players in the country.
Yeah.
You had the best college football player.
Yep.
You have arguably the best women's basketball player. And Caitlin Clark's really, really good, but like Angel Reese's a different player. I mean, you have the most popular.
Yes,
like
that's
it's
for
right
sure.
there with it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You have obviously Livy Dunn, popularity through the roof.
Crazy.
Even
dudes like Tommy White, right? Dude's a household name. Everybody knows Tommy Tanks across college baseball. Like every kid, like it's just nuts. Like the impact that our athletes are having on people. Right now.
Malik Neighbors creates an end zone dance, him and Kyron Lacey, that literally the entire world does now.
Yep.
How many times has LSU done that?
But just even
with the gritty,
even
like,
this shit, even the ring shit, it's just like
Joe started this with the ring. It's like
it's
LSU
nuts.
right now is like it's really like the coolest place to be in sports.
Yep.
And also winning games, but also just like the cool factor. And I tell people all the time, like when I drive around Baton Rouge, it's not just football billboards. It's baseball. It's women's basketball. It's softball. It's everything. It's the totality of the athletic department.
That's what it is too.
It's incredible.
Yep. It really
and
is.
Scott, and that's how Scott wants it.
Yep.
Like Coach Sean Hudson in soccer. Like I remember having a conversation with him, and now they make the NCAA tournament every year, and he's like, "We stole it, coach."
Yeah, that's
he goes, man. He's like, "Why is she at this level?"
Yeah,
I remember him saying that. Like,
really?
Think about that.
Yeah.
Like an AD like Scott thinking about soccer, right? A sport that doesn't bring in revenue, but he's like, this coach should be at a higher level. He brings Sean in. She makes the NCAA tournament now and makes that soccer team competitive when they weren't before. And that's just him wanting everything to be good.
Yep.
And not all ADs are like that, certainly with the non-revenue sports.
Absolutely. And dude, we went to the PMAC the other night for the gymnastics game.
Yeah.
And so Joe was down like filming, and all that. And Abby and I were sitting next to each other in the stands at one point. I'm trying to talk to her and I'm screaming at her because it was so loud.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is absolutely like I've been to one or two gymnastics meets before, but I'm just like, this is electric. This is awesome. Like the bass is playing, like it's so loud, and the people, everybody's into it. The pom-poms are going the whole time. Like little girls are running around. I'm like, this is a crazy culture, and it's just awesome to be a part of it. Really,
I don't think you see that anywhere else.
No, and it allows us to be able to do the media stuff that we're doing, right? And it's the cool things that we get to go to these events and that kind of stuff, and allows us to stay in it and everything. So no, it's fun.
Yeah, and it feels like it's only going in the upward.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, everybody's here to stay. It feels like it's like we found our people. It's like this next decade could be really fun for LSU and stuff like that. And especially as we pave the way for NIL, like we're definitely going to be the leaders in that. And they've done a great job even giving those kids resources and business owners resources in town to help with the kids and stuff.
The business
too.
owners, I mean, you're included in this. Y'all have done a really nice job of helping out in that space.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy just to open up your checkbook sometimes and really in the
dealing with
unknown
kids,
too.
and you're dealing with kids, not professionals.
No, and it's the unknown. Like, is this going to be worth the investment?
Exactly.
But I mean, y'all put your money where your mouth is, and y'all have done that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think there's going to continue to develop on that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah, and if you can't open up your checkbook, you can just buy a bottle of Saint Rock vodka.
Yeah,
that's that Bayou tradition. There. Like there we go.
That's a good man there.
Yeah, no, and again, that's the cool stuff. We partnered with that vodka company, and it's like I didn't even realize what they were doing. And he was like, "Oh yeah," he was like, "This collective that they have partners with companies in town where like portions of their proceeds go back into this to help the athletes." So it's like, wait, so you're telling me I can say, hey, go buy this vodka, like you're gonna drink vodka anyway, and it goes back to like so college kids can help. They create resources for kids, like everybody to help donate. You don't have to have millions of dollars to make it into the collective and stuff. So that's the cool thing.
The grassroots portion of NIL and collectives, like that's something that people need to realize. That stuff helps.
Yes.
That stuff helps. I think there's some schools that are doing a really good job of that. It's not just the business owners. It's not the people with the deepest pockets. It's also like that small little donation from some of the fans that by the end of it, like you end up raising a lot of money to go towards the players.
And that's kind of one thing that we've talked about here is we would like to build our own collective and work with LSU too, because all the memorabilia. It would be cool to be able to pay the athletes. Say, hey, give us one of your 3 pairs of shoes throughout the year,
right?
But I'll put a little bread in your pocket before the season, so that way you can live, have some fun. Just give us a couple cleats, give us some autographs here and there. Come do a podcast, But it's like they've created ways now for business owners to benefit off of it, and recoup some of that investment that they give to the kids too.
For sure. I think obviously being a local radio guy in the mornings, like there's our clients, like people that we advertise for, well, they have NIL deals as well. And like, part of it is like, hey, we do this NIL deal. Would y'all like to have him on the show to promote whatever we're doing? So like it helps us
absolutely
a ton as well, like in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what we want to do with ours too. So before I let you get out of here, because I know we've been shooting the shit for a little while, but talk to me a little bit. One of the things that I think we were talking about it before, identity as an athlete, right? You grew up, you played your whole life as an athlete. You had an opportunity to play for your hometown team in the NFL, or home state team in the NFL, but you chose to go the broadcasting route and go into that next phase of life and that new identity. Yeah. So what kind of advice, or maybe share some of the struggles or the things you had success with when you were trying to make that transition? Obviously, you said you had a good wife and resources and stuff like that, but it's got to be a hard thing for people.
So like if I was talking to like an athlete right now, I would say don't wait. Don't wait to get a plan together.
Love it.
Man, my teammates, and I'm sure you dealt with this too in the NFL, their identity was always a player.
Right.
Like because you got to work your ass off every single day to get to that point. And so that's all you have time for. It's all that your focus can be.
Right.
Well, you don't get a chance to focus on anything else at that time.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of are a one-trick pony at that time. And I've seen so many teammates, man, it's heartbreaking that they get done playing football, no matter how long they played, and like, oh, hell, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next move? And then all of a sudden, you're 2 years down the road, and you're not living on the street or anything, but you're diving into your savings, and you're spending like you're still making it, and you're not.
Exactly.
Right? And it's like, man, you can't do that because you never had an identity outside of sports. right? And that happens to so many people. And it's like, okay, well, how do I find something that fulfills me? I think you got to get that plan together beforehand. And like for me, I had some great advice from older teammates when I got to San Diego. They were like, hey, what do you want to do? Right. And like my second or third year, I went and I sat in on a radio show in San Diego. They were in the locker room and the host was sick or something. And they're like, hey, does anybody want to come sit in on this radio show? Like it was off season, and they were like, "Hey, you like all these other sports?" Because I'm a huge Braves fan, I'm a huge soccer fan. I was a shy kid. I'm like, I guess, come sit down. Man, from the moment I sat down, the red light turns on. I was like, "No, really, I'm doing this."
Really?
Oh yeah.
So
really I did
cool.
that whole off season.
Yeah.
I'd go in once a week, and I'd sit there for 2 hours, and I'd go.
This is in San Diego.
It's in San Diego,
Nice,
and so I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to start planning for my future of trying to get into this, and that was again, like I would play 4 years after that.
Wow.
I was like, this is what I want to
really
do.
cool.
And not everybody has that luxury. I was very fortunate to like find something.
Right.
And so for me, like I decided to retire because I did have something lined up already. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what my next passion was going to be. So the transition wasn't as bad. And I would tell anybody, man, just have your plan ready to go.
I like that.
Because someday it's going to end.
100%.
It doesn't matter who you are. You can be the best to ever do it. Like you need something. Like even if money's not an object, you need
that's
something
what I was just going to say.
Fulfill your life.
Yes. Your mind,
and
your
this
time.
fulfills me in every way, man. So like that would be what I would tell people that are players trying to transition into anything. And then as far as like broadcasting, anybody that like asks me like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Anytime anybody asks you to do a rep, take the rep.
Yes.
I'm talking about anytime. Never say no.
Okay.
That's why I don't like to say no anymore. Because that's how you continue to build what you're going to be. And like I ask people every day to come on my radio show. So how in the world am I going to tell somebody no?
I feel you.
So like I want to do as many things as I can to try to continue to do that and have it go full circle. But that's the only way you can get better in what we do is continue to do reps and continue to take the interview. Go do the interview yourself. Even if they're not interviewing you, go do the reps. Grab a phone, grab a camera, and just do it. Right. And if you can get a live rep, which is not easy. I mean, there's not that many opportunities. Just do it. Just go in there and create your craft and how you want to be as an announcer or podcaster or whatever it might be. And I would say, watch yourself back. And sometimes that's cringeworthy. Sometimes you don't like hearing your own voice. I struggle with that at the beginning. Like, am I that big of a hillbilly? Do I really sound like that? And that's the only way you can get better, man.
Yeah,
and so like every single time you get a chance to get a rep in this profession, I think you have to take it. And there's so many ways to get that now. Like you can do stuff like this. You can do a podcast. You can do a live radio show. You can do you can create your own podcast.
You can throw your camera on yourself and just start talking and do something. One of my boys that I played ball with, he's trying to work for MLB Network. Yeah. So literally he just paid this company to help him post produces. He's like, I'm going to set up a camera, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He just talks about baseball. He tells stories, he does whatever, and he's just learning. And you can see the transition of it, and like how he started and how it's evolved. And I'm like, dude, this is exactly it. Sometimes it's going to be embarrassing. You're going to throw yourself out there, right? Dude. And it's going to be weird and people are not going to understand it because how many people followed you or liked you because you were a football player? And then over time, they're like, wow, Jacob's really good at this. And actually, I just really like Jacob, and it's just like, and then they're,
dude, I'm sure if I went back to the first show I ever did, I'm sure it's awful.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
especially by your standards and what you expect now.
I probably thought it was good at the time. I thought it would be terrible
exactly
to go back and listen to it. Gosh, how many of those would I probably do? Or likes?
I still struggle.
I'm trying to think what my crutch, because everybody still has them.
Oh yeah. I say like a lot, and that's my big. I'll listen to my podcast in the car when I'm driving, and I'll start sweating, and I'm like, "Oh, Mike, so I just did it," and it's the worst. But
we all have crutches.
Yeah, exactly.
We all use them. They're always like if you're trying to buy time. Mine's look. If I say look, I'll readjust myself. I'm like, all right, look, readjust. I'm thinking like in my mind, what's my next thing going to be?
Yes.
So like that's my crutch word, and I know it is, and I try to not use it as much, but we all have them, and so like little things like that.
But also that makes you a good broadcaster because the likes and the ums are the dead space and the things that most people say. So you figured out a word or an adjustment or something to get rid of that like and the that are the triggers for people, right? And that's what I think I've figured out in my journey on this stuff too, is figuring out how to get over those stumble things where I think in the beginning when I started doing this, I would like try to think of my next question or like, you know, that kind of stuff. And you would forget what you were saying and all that. And then you just start paying attention to the conversation. You get better in the flow and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cause initially, like I know for me, I would try to almost like write out 5 questions.
Oh yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. No. Like, I mean, be prepared.
Yeah.
Like, know
do your homework.
Know
and
your
like,
assignment, know who you're interviewing. But man, if you do that, then you don't allow any organic conversation. Right. And then, like you said, then I kind of tune you out because I'm thinking line number 2.
Exactly. How do I get back to this part?
It's no, listen to the person. And then they might say something that is way more interesting than 100%. Anything you got on this paper. And then you follow up on that. So I mean, you can't get those things unless you get the rep.
Exactly. So. And you just got to try it too. That's the other thing I tell people, especially when you're trying to break identities, like trying to just being, you just had an identity your whole life. So like everything's going to be fearful and new and that kind of stuff. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's the hard part. I think people just putting themselves out there and asking for things and like, hey, can I try this? Can I do this with you? And that kind of stuff. But that's the way to do it. And it's so hard, but yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I know you've done a great job. You've always been kind of a mentor for me. And I've always appreciated what you've done in the media space, and you continue to grow and be a great family guy and an example in our community, dude. So I really appreciate the time always and continue to do what you do.
I appreciate you. And I appreciate you not being from here, but coming here and, you know, fully buying into Louisiana and LSU. Yeah. That's not easy to do. I mean, you're from the Northeast, right? And you come here and then you stayed here. Yeah. And like, that's tough, man. That stuff's important to me because I'm from Louisiana. I'm prideful of it, but like somebody to come down here and, you know, enjoy it so much and appreciate it so much that this is where you made your roots. So I always appreciate stuff like that too. And then like, obviously, you know, cards and culture, man. I spend a lot of money in here, man.
No, I'm grateful for that too. Thank you. Yes, you're a good customer of the boys.
Because you've created this great business that is intriguing to a lot of us. And my boys love it, man. They love coming in here. So not only your roots, but I mean, you put your life into Baton Rouge. And so like being from Louisiana, I appreciate that. Yeah, no,
I appreciate it. Again, like all this stuff is because of the people down here. So the community, the things that we do, you know, the fans at LSU, it really is. And I ate dinner with a guy named Blaine Enlow yesterday. He's in his professional baseball journey right now. And he was like asking like why I moved down and how much of a culture shock it was. And I was like, dude, it was for me where I'm at now to think of like how rooted I am and all this. And like, I remember being 17 years old and grabbing Micah Gibbs and I was like, why do these people keep saying they want to cook for me, dude? And they want to take care of me. I'm like, what are we going to have to do for them? And like, why, like, we're going to have to owe them. Owe them. And he's like, you're going to have to learn a lot about the South, dude. They just want to like literally show off their cooking to you and make you happy. Yes. And that's it. And they want to share their stuff. And I'm like, really? And like, but that's more, I think the way that my dad always taught me that. He was like, hey, when you get stuff, you share it. Like, that's the way we do things, like, and all that stuff. And so like, I just felt like, these are my people. This is it. Like, I feel more comfortable here and I like this community, you know?
And last thing I'll say on LSU, and I tell people all the time, what makes it unique is there's a lot of great places across this country. Like, I can tip my cap to a lot of other universities, but here's what makes it unique. In Texas, you run into Texas fans, A&M fans, Baylor fans, TCU fans, whatever it might be. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Florida, 3 schools, even in Alabama, Auburn and Alabama. Right, everywhere you go, South Carolina, Clemson.
There's a split or something.
There's a split. Like, you're going to run into 10 people, and they, 5 root for this team, 5 root for that team. Here, you go to Shreveport, you go to Monroe, you go to Lafayette, Lake Charles, New Orleans, Baton Rouge. You can go anywhere. Hell, you can go to DeRidder, Louisiana. It doesn't matter. They're going to be LSU fans, and that's what makes this place unique. And the fact that that's the case, and also the talent that we have in this state already. Like, there's just no other place like that. I tell people, and I'm not hating on the Saints. I love the Saints. I talk about Saints every single day. But there's a reason the Superdome holds 70,000 and Tiger Stadium holds 102. Right? I mean, LSU runs this state, in my opinion, and you can't really go to any other powerhouse and say that. Nope. I mean, nowhere else. Like, even if like Georgia is like the big dog in their state, I do get that. But there was a time when Georgia Tech was beating them every year.
100%.
Right? And so like that might not ever happen again, but you're going to have like a 70-30 split. Right. There's no 70-30 here. No. That's and what even makes this place great.
Even if you're a fan too, what I've realized, or if somebody went to ULM or went to Tulane, it's like, yeah, I like Tulane, but I'm an LSU fan. Like, it's always like, it has something like that, or it's like our family was. So of course I watch, like, I love LSU, you know, but it's just crazy. It really is. I've never.
And that's not to be disrespectful to those programs. That's what I mean. I root for those programs, but in their heart of hearts, if you ask them the question, they
it's
would
just
know.
crazy. Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So.
And that's the thing that I appreciate, again, being from New Jersey and not having a school like that or something growing up and
Shout out
idolizing.
Rutgers.
That's it. Rutgers. That's it. Nobody knows about Rutgers that much. That's funny. That was our state school though. And
Yes, it was.
they tried, and I love their coach, but I needed to get out of the cold.
They tried.
Right? Yeah. But hey, thank you so much, Jacob. Man, this was fun. Always fun to catch up, and I'm sure we'll be doing it again soon. So thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Appreciate it.